Persona 3 Reload is about a blue dude with an attitude, and in case you couldn't figure it out, this is a remake. You can tell because they took a place you recognize, and they made it look a little better.
Worse.
Persona 3 is the critically acclaimed RPG developed by Atlus in 2006, and then again in 2007, and again in 2009, 2024, and to be honest, we're probably getting a fifth one in the next few years. But can you really blame them? Every re-release of this game has performed amazing. I mean, whenever your franchise's release order is 334-353, you gotta be doing something right. Every version of this game had its own unique purpose. The original was the start, FES added an epilogue, and Portable added a ton of stuff, but most importantly is the fact that it was portable. Introducing it to newer audiences is good, but you could accomplish that for much less by just porting it to modern consoles, which they eventually did, and it sucked. Creating another version of the game felt a little unnecessary, unless that new version was going to combine everything the other versions had. The definitive version of Persona 3. The best way to play it. That's what this was supposed to be. Notice how I said supposed to. Before you even get into the actual game, you can tell that this is going to be awesome. I mean, the box art is a recreation of the original. That's as cool as a pool. The intro is beautiful, taking cues from Persona 5, but putting a Persona 3 twist on it, and while it's not as cryptic as the original, which is personally a big loss, I think this intro is overall better than any of the other ones. It looks great, and it gives every character ample time in the spotlight. Afterwards, you get to the title screen, and thanks to technology, instead of getting a stationary PNG, you get a stationary model. It would have been cool if it was just Makoto at the start and everybody else slowly appeared as the game went on, but in this modern era where you can just put the console into sleep mode and pick up exactly where you are, this would have felt weird. But I mean, Paper Mario did it. The first thing you're treated to is an animated cutscene. Wow, this is incredible! That's what a normal person would say. Instead, I was confused on where the girl went. Remember what I said earlier? I lied. Turns out Persona 3 Reload is the definitive version of Persona 3. Let me specify. It's the definitive version of Persona 3. Just this one, it takes nothing from these two, well, except all this. Actually, it'd be better to say it adds all the games together, minus the most important parts. The answer from FES and the female route from Portable, which honestly begs the question of why? You already added in everything else, why not go the extra mile and finish the job? Remaking a game and not including all the content from the game it's based on just doesn't make sense to me. This exclusion feels excessive, and with the answer being added as DLC later, it really feels like they were just trying to justify porting the game to get some extra merch and cash before they finally released the remake that people wanted. But those are all external problems. What about the game itself? Well, it plays exactly how you'd expect it to. Run around, fight demons, eat burgers, the whole package. They include this cute little title drop once you reach the dorm. It feels cinematic shining in the moonlight, especially since the first person to greet you is Beetlejuice. You meet the besties, take a nap, get on the track, and welcome to Gekukan High. This is where you'll be spending a lot of your time, and it's one of the main tiny hub worlds for you to explore. Persona 3 is like a real-time simulator mixed with a visual novel. You talk to people, make friends, deepen those friendships as the story moves on. Soon you're introduced to Igor and Elizabeth. They're going to be handling all your Persona-related needs, but before any of that, you actually have to get your Persona. This shell of a man says that there's a scary monster outside, so you decide to follow this girl straight to the roof with no accessible exits in sight. And shocker, the monster catches you. Thankfully, it's 2-on-1, so this shouldn't be a Well, only one way out now.
I am thou, thou art I.
Wow, this looks like shit. The presentation of Reload was a big priority for Atlus, and it's clear that they were pretty proud of how it came out. Everything from the simple stuff like running around the city, interacting with the world, to the crazy stuff like the battles and Persona animations. Almost everything in this game was crafted to look as good as possible. Almost. This is the almost. I'm not sure what happened here, but it just looks bad, which is weird because the rest of the cutscene looks good. It's just the actual awakening itself. This is one of the most important scenes in the game, so the decision to use 3D animation is an odd choice. Persona 3 has a 2D animated cutscene for this, and even today it looks great. You could make the argument that they didn't use 3D animation back then, which is fair, but even so, Persona 5 doesn't do this either. The first half of Joker's Awakening uses models, however the actual awakening itself, they switched to 2D animation, and I think this is the right call because this is the moment of most impact for the player. Reload takes more from the movie's counterpart for this cinematic, to which I say shame on you because the movies did this 10 times better. The jagged teeth, the head tilt, the camera curving around his head to show off this crooked smile. He looks psychotic, confronting his own morality, while in Reload, he looks like SpongeBob after they found the paddy wagon. Just like Persona 3, after Orpheus is awakened, Thanatos comes immediately after, and I don't like it. As I said before, I think the movie does this better, and it would have been cool if they leaned into it more than they did. I feel nothing from this scene in Reload. It looks good in tiny bits that they use for the trailer, but once you play out the entire thing, it just falls flat. Thanatos is animated so stiff and moves so rigid. They try to replicate what the movie did by letting him lash the shadow twice before rushing its hand in the moonlight, but it's not nearly as monstrous as the former. I think having Thanatos pant and growl like a monster would is really cool, and I adore that Yukari is genuinely terrified of him in Reload. In the original, she's just kinda shocked, and in the movie, she just looks bored.
My dad died in an accident when I was little.
Wow, that's fun. Life goes back to normal for a while. You just go to school, talk to the man, and raise your social stats. You learn about the dark hour and how scary it is that there's 60 hidden minutes at midnight where monsters try to eat you, so naturally you decide to go to the nest of these midnight monsters. When first entering Tartarus, Reload adds an extra scene of the characters chatting about the structure. These interactions between cast members feel so real and authentic, even allowing for some foreshadowing. This place is absolutely breathtaking. The closest comparison I can think of is Final Fantasy VII versus its remake. Battle is exactly what you'd expect of it. Hit the button, do the action, win the fight, easy. Every action is tied to a specific button rather than having it laid out on a wheel. Better for gameplay, but aesthetically a downgrade. They added this crescent moon effect, but the revolver was just so much cooler. It lives on in the weapon shop, and I wish that they could keep it in battle, but I get it. Just like the previous games, there's strengths and weaknesses, but more importantly is that they keep the elements from the original. Persona 3 has 3 different physical skills, being Slash, Strike, and Pierce. Later entries combine these into being one category, so it's cool to see them stay true to source. You battle through the scary tower until the dark hour ends. Now, after talking to a cop off the clock, the game introduces you to social links. Hang out with your friends, grow closer, and help them through their struggles. The original Persona 3 had some gimmicks to their social links, and Reload promised the return of these, but the only one that they brought back is reversals, and they only included the ones that were dialogue specific from Portable. This is just as good as removing them entirely, which is what they did to the break mechanic. Under an umbrella, these were called jealousy. Majority of players never actually run into the jealousy mechanics because of how lenient it is. It's really just there to make careless players pay more attention to what they're doing. Removing it helps no one. I really don't feel like talking about every individual social link, but for the most part, they're all unchanged and they're fully voice acted, and this is what I think of them. May 9th arrives, and that means it's time for your first boss. They changed the camera angle from the road to the train to be more dynamic. This is just one of the many changes throughout the game, and they're all really appreciated. More dialogue is given to this throwaway panty joke and green! This place is so f***ing green, dude. I mean, yeah, the Dark Hour has always been green, but this is absurd. I'd even go as far to say that the original looks better here. At least over there, it's just a hue from the moonlight. This looks like a damn green screen. There's a new scene before the boss fight that allows for some extra foreshadowing for Junpei. Get to the freak in the sheet at the front, take her out, save the day. Speaking of Junpei, he wants to hang out and introduce the new Link episodes. They're kind of like social links, but much more specific. Instead of being locked behind a rank, they're locked behind the story. Persona 3 does most of their character development through the main story, so only the girls got real social links, and even then they only exist so that you could date them. But now it's the guys' turn. Each male party member has one. There's only 5 per link. They're all pretty good, except for you. But for now, Elizabeth has a request for you. These are tiny objectives you can complete for prizes, such as bringing her a specific item or persona. Every now and then she'll ask to accompany you somewhere, so be nice, she's not from around here. A major quality of life is that you can actually view her missions from outside the Velvet Room now. Reload is filled with these tiny changes. You can receive mail from your friends, so you don't have to go searching for them if you want to hang out, and when walking up to them, it actually shows their arcana and their rank. NPCs have a blue bubble whenever there's new dialogue, and a gray bubble when there's not. All romances are optional. Thank God, I don't have to feel like a dick anymore. Junpei's spooky tale from hell reveals a girl is gone missing. Just kidding, she's in Tartarus. The scene of Junpei looking at the moon is wonderful, but afterwards it cuts back to the group, whereas the original keeps the window view throughout the entire scene. I think it's a little cooler. Fuka's awakening is really good. I thought I'd have more to say, but I honestly don't. They took the original and just made it better. Good work. Soon after, Mitsuru introduces you to the new Hangout system. This feature in Reload allows you to, well, hang out with all your party members. These are incredible, completely voice acted, and super cute. They help make everyone feel a lot more complete. I'd really like Ken learning that it's okay to be a kid, and Aigis wholeheartedly wanting to join the Yakuza? Oh my god. The original Persona 3 had a bit of a pacing issue at the start. There just wasn't a whole lot to do, and much less keep you entertained throughout the first few months. Reload tries to make this experience as comfortable as possible, with plenty to keep you occupied. So stuff like this is adorable.
Oh, you said it! You actually said yum!
Akutsuki calls you to the meeting room to show off your new outfits that allow you to unleash your new power. Theurgy are these new awesome super attacks, and in gameplay they're really cool, but that's about it. The game says they're elemental, but they're all just almighty damage that can hit a weakness or critical attack. And if your Theurgy is physical, then the crit is going to be 100%, almost 100% of the time. There's little variety outside of the ones that heal or buff, and you don't actually need a healer in Reload, because if you play carefully, Fuka's Theurgy outclasses everybody else. I think the introduction to Theurgy is really good. It feels natural and fluid. The gang gets split up, you go to regroup, you tumble over, and then Yukari saves the day. She even gets some spotlight on her Theurgy, which is the direct reference to her insta-kill in Persona 4 Arena. People probably like that game. I'm gonna block this whack ass mix-up. These guys commit a murder, Akihiko feeds the homeless, and this scene annoys me. Not because of its contents, but because if this deserved to be animated, why didn't the Orpheus Awakening? Compared to the original, this scene is actually an improvement. Back then, she ran over to slap you, despite being right at the door, where she could have just gone back in. But now, the slap makes more sense because she's right in front of you. The Love Hotel looks great, by the way. There's so much new stuff here that it almost feels haunted. Solve the riddle of the nipple, beat the boss, and get out of here. Eventually, you find out that there's 12 super shadows, and defeating all of them will eliminate the Dark Hour. Thankfully, we've already defeated 3 of them, but this confrontation starts some discourse among the team. Yukari's upset at Mitsuru, Mitsuru's full of regret, Junpei's full of doubt, Akihiko's worried about his friend, and Fuka had a tummy ache that hurt a little too much for a little too long. There's only one way to resolve this.
Damn! Kirijo-senpai, defeated.
This is giving me a headache.
Yeah, this isn't working out. Yakushima has always been a highlight of Persona 3 for a plethora of reasons, but it really shines in Reload. The scenery has been spiced up a bit. This 360 camera angle really helps sell how beautiful this place is. Your beach retreat ends, and you go and learn that Yukari's dad is actually behind everything. The Dark Hour, Tartarus, Shadows, it's all his fault. Reload transforms his confession into an animated cutscene, and this was the best decision that they've made so far. It feels so much more impactful. You can hear the despair in her voice as she's illuminated in that haunting red light, and then she runs off to the beach. I'm quite happy they kept this as it was originally, instead of doing what the movies did, where Aigis overshadows Yukari by coming in to rescue them. Especially since this is supposed to be Yukari's big moment in this story. But speaking of Aigis, this is incredible. The 3D animation is absolutely pushed to its limits here. I mean, this is the reveal shot and the trailer shot. The stunning water, the lens flare on the camera, her iconic blue dress that you cannot unlock in-game.
Kill me.
Also, they changed Operation Babe Hunt to actually be funny. I think that's worth noting. Aigis is an anti-shadow weapon, a living arsenal who exists to destroy their targets. So, naturally, you let her target practice on Junpei. Shinji gets drugged, you get a new alarm clock, this kid named Ken moves in with you, and this dog is badass! The full moon rises once again, and this time you're in an abandoned military facility. Search around for the shadow, and whoa! A white guy! These guys are called Strega. Ain't how you hate the Dark Hour? Well, they don't. They love Tartarus, or as they call it, the Tower of Demise. They can't wait to die. Unlike you like living, right? That's why you're here. And what's in here with you? A tank. This is your 8th extermination, so you're getting pretty good at this. Mitsuru even has a reward for you, so you go meet her in the control room, and oh my god, this dog is badass! Sadly, even certified cool guys like yourself have to go to the doctor every now and then, and just like every doctor visit, the line is abysmal. You don't get in until the late hour of midnight. Oh shit. This scene is part of a new set of cutscenes added to Reload that focus on Strega, or more specifically, Takaya. These cutscenes they're okay. Strega doesn't get a lot of exposition or depth in the original game, so I appreciate them adding more here, but that's just about all I can say about them, is that I appreciate it. They don't really do anything, just reiterating things that we already knew or talking about things that don't matter. The scene of Takaya and Jin looking onwards onto Tartarus is an incredible set piece, but then they give this kind of horrible explanation as to why Takaya doesn't use an evoker, and that's about all they have to offer. Also, it's odd that they use Abaddon here, and they give it a redesign. This is technically the only actual demon in all of Persona 3. Everything else is just a generic shadow. Kinda weird, but kinda cool. Now that Koromaru is staying at the dorms, you get to go on walks with him. Unlike my dog, who just wants to eat all my food. Stroll up roll into the night, your friends might join you as well. They'll talk about things currently going on in the story, like Aigis trying to comprehend death, fun stuff. While out on a walk, Junpei runs into the Strega girl. Kin overhears a conversation between Akihiko and Shinji. This was just the kickstart he needed, because he insists to join C's right after. Junpei goes back to the station to look for our mystery girl, and she remembers him, but that's about it. Once again, he gets brushed aside. However, the hero never gives up. He returns once more, and this time he actually gets a name. Go back home, and Yukari has a surprise for you. It's Aigis, but not just any Aigis, School Aigis. I was hoping they'd add this scene from the movie where Aigis walks over and sits next to you without saying anything. It's something small that would have been fun, but alas, they hate Aigis. She never gets any attention. The Blowjob Brothers have another outing that ends with Shinjiro joining the team, and that means congratulations! You now have all the party members, just look at them lined up. 10 party members is a lot for an RPG. Persona has always had some big parties, and sure, one of them isn't exactly playable, but this is a pretty hefty roster. And now that we do have everyone, I think it's finally time to talk about in the daytime, this is the school, but during the dark hour, it turns into this eternal damnation. Out of everything that Reload sets to improve, they knocked Tartarus out of the park. Just stepping inside, you can feel an aura surround you. This place is huge and imposing. Compared to the original, it's like the feeling they were trying to impose 18 years ago is finally coming to life. From looking outside, you can tell that Tartarus is giant, but the entrance really does make you feel small. This is the second half of the game. Aside from the social aspects and eating as many wild duck burgers as you can, Persona 3 is also an RPG. This is where all that mess takes place. As like the original, Tartarus is a 264 floor high power of tower, separated between blocks. Each block is locked behind defeating a full moon boss, of which are rewarded the next time you enter. The blocks in Reload change vastly. Before, the changes were just cosmetic, but now the physical layout changes, with some maps being huge and others being linear. There's 6 blocks in total, and they all look fantastic. They have these cute animations for whenever you first enter Tartarus or use a new party member in battle. They're similar to the awakenings from other games, but since a lot of people in this game already had their powers before they joined you, this is a nice way to add some flair. Tartarus honestly hasn't changed as much as you think. There's just way more to do within them now. There's new breakable objects to gain items and materials alongside these rare chests that require Twilight Fragments to open. Twilight Fragments are these cute little items you found around the overworld. They act as sort of a dark hour currency. Golden shadows appear on special floors where you have to hunt them down in a guessing game. The Reaper's still sulking around, and this time he even follows you between the floors. After battle, there's a chance to send somebody out to recon ahead. Elizabeth will periodically inform you about people who have gone missing in Tartarus, and it's your job to save them. There's this big-ass clock in Tartarus that's a substitute for EXP share, and I really like this. It brings your lowest leveled party member up to where you're currently at, and it's such a fun way to encourage using different teams without the introduction of an EXP share. Monad doors are brand new. They randomly appear, providing big rewards if you decide to conquer them. Alongside this, Monad paths also show up at every roadblock. They're the same as the door, but instead of items, you get lore drops and cosmetics. The battles within these doors are meant to be more challenging than the average shadow, but they're not. Now don't get me wrong, Tartarus is an absolute upgrade compared to his FES counterpart, but that's only if you're comparing the remake to the original. And while yes, that's normally what you would do, we have to consider Persona 5 Royal when it comes to this. Each Persona game looks to improve on the gameplay that the previous release offered. Duh. That's how video games work. And it's at this point that I think Persona 3 Reload might have been a little too faithful. A lot of people will tell you that Reload plays like Persona 5 with a Persona 3 skin, but it really isn't. If you compare the two, Reload is actually a significant downgrade, which is pretty impressive in a weird way. Starting off with something that Royal added, technical attacks. These were situational attacks that allowed you to get additional damage when comboing specific elements. If they're burned, use wind, confused, psycho, frozen, shoot them. It gave you layers to your offense and prevented one category from being too strong compared to all the others. Reload doesn't have any of this, and as a result, physical attacks are a win-all tool. If your team isn't looking like this by the end of the game, then you're probably doing something wrong. Fatigue was removed in favor of nothing, which kind of sucks. In gameplay, if you overstimulated your party members, then they'd get, well, fatigued and perform poorly. This is a reference to how in real life, if you're tired, then you don't move a whole lot. It kinda acted as a hidden SP gauge. Once it ran out, you should be running out. And in a game with 9 party members with 3 SP heals, I think this was a good pace breaker. It prevented you from sweeping the place all in one night and gave you an active challenge if you attempted to. People were happy it's gone, but just because a mechanic limits you, that doesn't mean it's bad. It added an extra layer of depth to the combat and made you strategically pick when to enter and leave. Tartarus was meant to be played in short bursts, yet Arcana Burst and the updated shuffle time system act in complete opposition to this. Being replaced entirely by Persona 4's shuffle time system, where you're displayed a certain amount of cards and then you pick your poison, you're now actually rewarded for staying longer. Royal has a ton of shops and places for you to shortly raise your stats or get items. You got the gym, bookstore, shrine, jazz club, cafe, etc. But since Tokyo is way bigger than Iwatodai, they couldn't add all this stuff to the overworld and instead shoveled them off into Tartarus, which causes an infinite reward loop because now you can do this every single night. It's like if Royal you could visit every single shop every single night without any time passing. Traits added a lot of much needed strategy to the Persona fusions because you couldn't just brute force them with skill cards. You had to actually plan your physical fusion in the Velvet Room. But they were really strong, so Reload removed them and replaced it with passives. These can be stacked with skill cards and become more broken than traits were, which defeats the purpose of the replacement. Royal added equipment that gave party members an active skill, but Reload trimmed them down to just passives again, and this eliminates a lot of player expression. You can't even customize your weapons anymore. Fusion Alarm in the Velvet Room was already a gamble. It encouraged you to fuse at your heart's content and try different things to see what you get. Royal just has mutations that are so easily manipulatable, you can beat the Reaper at level 20 with genuinely no struggle. The dungeon crawling is incredible in Reload, and the battles are fun, which is what I suppose matters most, but I don't know. I can't help but wish there was more. Junpei, for like the 4th time, goes to the train station and just lies his ass off. And then he gets kidnapped. They talk about his absence briefly, but nobody really cared, so they just go on with the operation. Chidori gets choked up and Shinji gives her some drugs to take the edge off. Akihiko is not happy about Shinji popping pills and confronts him. This scene is just as good as before, but when Aki goes to hit Shinji, he revs up? This is small but dumb. Getting into a fighting stance before throwing the punch makes me think it was intentional, that he was thinking about it, when in the original he just does it. It was impulsive and he wasn't thinking. He's trying to hide his emotions behind his fist. This is a nitpick, but I think it's something worth picking at. That green ball in the sky is shining bright, yet Ken and Shinji are nowhere in sight. Regardless of this, you have to go fight the boss. This boss is actually pretty unique compared to what we've seen so far, having a roulette feature that affects both the party and the shadows. Sure wish Shinji was here. His physical skills would have been wonderful for pumping out damage. Too bad he's at spear point and gunpoint. And Ken finds out the truth about Shinji and swears revenge. What did Shinji do? A little bit of manslaughter, you know, who doesn't? Ken's mom died. Takaya shows up thinking, how can I make this about me? And eventually shoots Ken, but Shinjiro jumps in front of the bullet to save him. This scene is incredible. The ambience being immediately cut off by the sound of the gunshot before the camera pans to Takaya's expression, showing that he truly doesn't understand why Shinji would ever do this is masterful. Akihiko instantly runs over to help Shinji, and you can hear Mitsuru struggling to keep her composure in the back. Then Ken goes into a slow panic while Fuka tries to comfort him. The exchange between Ken and Shinji has been changed significantly to make his words more meaningful as he asks Akihiko to look after Ken. He doesn't do this, by the way. The shot of Akihiko gripping Shinjiro's hands until he's finally gone is one of the best scenes in the entire game. I think Koromaru howling at the end of it is a little distracting and takes away from what's supposed to be Ken's moment, but it's whatever. They handle the build up to this way better in Reload. Ken's Link episodes up until this point have been him trying to grow up too fast. And in the latter, he even asks you to take care of his hamster once he's gone. Jesus, dude. I don't think Ken ever really wanted to go through with this, but after being filled with nothing but hate and anger at the ripe age of 10, it felt like this was all he had left to live for. It's heartbreaking watching this child be robbed of his youth. All of the Link episodes are spread out throughout the entire game except for Shinji. It's a story on how he knows he's going to die from the suppressants and doesn't want to go back to school because of it, despite this meaning the world to Mitsuru. He just doesn't want to put her through that type of heartache. It goes through the seniors' history, showing them run through Tartarus as they were kids, pictures of them getting ready for school. They do a great job at making C's feel like an ongoing operation that you joined rather than one that you kickstarted. October 4th is surrounded by supporting events that make this day one to remember, but it's only surrounded by them. The actual day is still kinda stupid. No, listen, I know that sounds bad, but if you look even a little closely, the entire thing falls apart. Why was Akihiko the only one to realize what day it was when the two main people involved in what makes October 4th significant were missing? Mitsuru was there, especially weird since Shinji's Link episodes focus mainly on his relationship with Mitsuru. Akihiko only appears once, and he's kind of endearing it.
Why are you like this?
It doesn't help that his Link episodes suck as well, even though Pancake Party Time is pretty cool. They reduce everything back to, I want the power to protect others, instead of having him demonstrate any actual personal growth. His Link episode should have been about him learning how to show that he cares for others outside of battle, something he clearly struggles with because despite caring about Shinji, most of his interactions with the guy are inherently negative throughout the game. The movies make it so that they're trapped during the full moon operation and Aki is panicking the whole time. So the lack of communication and time crunch makes sense, but the game keeps it the same as the original. Akihiko is the first to realize and search, Mitsuru only realizes after they get back to the dorm, yet they all arrive at the same time. Did he get lost or something? He's lived on this island his entire life. This isn't even mentioning that Ken and Shinjiro have no relationship in the game. The movie has it so that Shinji saves you from the August 6th boss, which would have given you an extra month to use him, allowing for him to bond with Ken. They include this older brother subplot between the two, and it's honestly amazing. He's been full of anguish for years and finally meets someone he can just be a kid around, only to find out that it's his fault. You get to see him figure out the truth instead of listening to implications, so there's this month-long tension in the dorm. It's uncomfortable and it's incredible. Coming to terms with that and trying to react to that information at 10 gives so much more justification as to why Ken wants to go through with his plans, and it's gone. Reload is shown on multiple occasions that they're willing to take from the movies, but they never adapt the things that actually matter. Going into Shinji's room the next day, you'll find an application for Gekukan High School, which is truly a really good cap-off to this arc and Link episode. Mitsuru walks in and her reaction is some of the best voice acting the game has to offer, even if I think withholding the information from Akihiko is obnoxious for just so many different reasons. Ken comes to terms with his feelings and goes from one of the worst party members to one of the best. Akihiko confronts himself and doesn't change at all. Fuka realizes the truth and breaks the game, all in time for Strega to attack. When a character's persona evolves, they also get a new theurgy. Use a couple on these guys and they're done and dusted. Now do the same thing to the boss and pack it up. All 12 shadows have been defeated. Go celebrate with your friends. Reload adds these lovely pictures of certain scenes, and it's super cute. It's kind of weird that Akutsuki and Aigis are missing though. I'm sure they would have liked to be included, but it's probably fine. It's not. Akutsuki is actually really evil, and he's got Aigis under his control. Turns out defeating all 12 shadows actually brings upon the fall. What's that? Well, it's kind of like death, but for everyone. He plans on using you guys as a sacrifice and crucifies the entire party, with the exception of Koromaru, who's not present in this entire scene until the very end where he comes to save him. Yeah, alright, okay. Jokes aside, this segment is superb. Aigis struggling with the memories that she's made flashing back in her head is really touching. Akutsuki and Takaharu fire at each other, and neither miss. They both fall down, but Akutsuki falls a little further. Mitsuru has completely lost control during this entire event. After losing Shinjiro, the last thing she could handle is losing her father, but sadly, fate had other plans. Returning to the dorm, and Mitsuru isn't even available. She's completely locked herself off. Fuka gives Yukari an MP4 of her father saying, "Aw, shucks." Turns out he was trying to stop the experiment this entire time. Gaining this knowledge, she also finds her resolve. And then this guy shows up. Yellow scarf piece of shit. Ryoji's a chick flick and Aigis hates him. Yukari tries having a heart-to-heart with Mitsuru and he shows up swinging. He's got a Link episode for some reason. Only non-playable character to have one. It's probably important. But ignore that guy. Next stop, Kyoto. I really like Aigis mimicking Junpei as he tries to go to the girls' room despite having a current love interest, but I digress. There's tons of pictures of the gang hanging, having fun together. Ryoji seems to be getting along with everybody except for Aigis. Yukari confronts Mitsuru, and after some drastic convincing, Mitsuru finds new strength and awakens. Back home, Chidori is doing well, and I lied. Strega reels her back in through some good old-fashioned gaslighting as she calls you to the front of Tartarus. Junpei tries to reason with her, but it doesn't work. A fight breaks out, and after Chidori can't fight anymore, Junpei tries one more time to reach her through his words, but Strega shows up, and you know how they are, so yeah. Using the last bit of her power, Chidori sacrifices herself to bring Junpei back to life. This causes Junpei to awaken immediately and fight back. This is really good. Infinitely better than it was previously. Similar to October 4th, this scene lives off of the events that happened before it. In FES, Junpei is just dumb. When I first played the game, I found him kind of annoying, but then I played Portable as the female protagonist, and he's genuinely misogynistic and allowed to remain on the team for some reason. All of his character development hinged on this love interest with a chick he has zero chemistry with. There's not a single thing that motivates him to change outside of her, and their relationship is built off Junpei seeing a cute girl and her existing. I'd be cool with that if Chidori was enough of a character to justify Junpei falling for her, but she's not even that. Her arc is pretty cool in concept, but they only ever go into it for like a week in game, and because I cannot buy anything about these two having any actual chemistry, nothing about Junpei's growth works for me. Some may argue that this is the point, that they don't have any chemistry, and that's why they work so well, but they never even leaned into that until Reload. Junpei's Link episodes highlight the fact that he's been aimlessly going through life with no real plan or thought until he met her. He talks about her constantly. I mean, one of his Link episodes is literally just him seeing a flower shop and thinking about how beautiful she is. In FES, his obsession just spawns. He meets her, and after seeing her like 3 times, he's magically in love. They never actually sell this as a love story, and rather just a device for the plot to make me feel sad. And while yes, it works, that doesn't necessarily make it good. Reload admittedly doesn't add much to it, but they build onto things that were already present to make the story feel much more genuine. I can actually believe he's in love with her now, and I'm convinced that Chidori genuinely enjoys her time with him. They let you experience Career Week in the remake, and Junpei Junpei is just gone throughout the entire thing after Chidori's incident. He doesn't even have the strength to get out of bed. Chidori's notebook gets sent to him from the hospital, and they show you a drawing that she made of Junpei while waiting for him to return from Kyoto. All these tiny things that they add make the connection they share feel so much more real than it was before. I seriously didn't like him, but Reload really brought me around and even made me appreciate the older versions of his character. The cherry on top is the new theurgy attack Junpei gets after awakening. Not only is it really good, but it just looks so damn cool. Ryoji comes over to hang out and Aigis is pissed. So much so that she declares to do something about Ryoji. What does she plan to do? Well, the only thing you're supposed to do when you don't like someone. Try to kill them, of course. Aigis meets Ryoji on the Moonlight Bridge, and hey, what's Ryoji doing in the dark hour? Well, remember Beetlejuice from the beginning? He's been sleeping dormant inside you for the last 10 years after Aigis sealed him away. His real name is Death, and Ryoji is an awesome metaphor for death because he doesn't crave it, he just views it as part of life. He's gained humanity from living alongside you, and that's the entire reason behind him offering you guys a choice to live in bliss or fight in hopelessness. I really like this aspect of Ryoji. During Career Week, he even expresses how he wanted to reach out to Junpei because he was worried about him. The movie showed him bonding with almost exclusively Makoto. Reload does a good job at making him feel like a social butterfly, which makes moments like this mean a whole lot more. The dialogue attached to the cutscene has also been altered as well to make Aigis seem more remorseful for bearing Makoto with his curse. The world is ending and it's kind of your fault. The fall is coming, Nyx is approaching, and you've got a choice to make. Junpei lashes out at you and spends an entire Link episode apologizing. This is actually really cool. But more importantly, Aigis asks you to kill Ryoji. She soon calms down and awakens to her new persona after finding value in herself. Picking to kill Ryoji will result in the bad ending, which has been improved drastically. The music never changes as it fades into this pitch black credits. I really feel nothing watching this, which is what I believe to be the intention. But obviously you choose to spare Ryoji, and the battle for everyone's souls starts. January hits like a truck and everything looks different. This setting is wonderful. Even more wonderful that despite this, everyone is so chipper. After finding their peace, not even the threat of death can keep them down. I wish other parts of the game did this as well. It really helps sell the mood and makes me feel like something has changed. Especially weird when watching characters like Chidori and especially Shinjiro die, because then you just hear this within the next 5 minutes. The gang go to a little festival and Junpei sexualizes the girls again despite having just loved and lost Can't Win 'Em All. Since erasing the dark hour will erase all your memories of it, you guys promise to meet on the rooftop of graduation to try and preserve them. Now it's time for your final ascent onto Tartarus. It would have been cool if they played Meaning of the Armbands here, so it could have been used more than once, but it's whatever. Elizabeth is also available as a secret boss here. In previous games, you had to beat the game, then come back and challenge them on New Game Plus, which is like insane, right? Atlas expects us to beat an $80 game twice to 100% it. This change is awesome. Non-stop hop to the top and it's green! Listen, I don't care if it makes sense. Yeah, the moon is right there. Yeah, it looks really ugly. Take a look at the original game. Look at Portable. Look at the movie. Look at this drawing I made 5 minutes ago. The green doesn't look that good. It looks like the Kiwami filter. Nyx looks awesome though. So cool, huge, and frightening. Her wings changing red during the final phase is really cool. I mean, this is death, and they convey it so well. The world is ending, your friends call out to you, and through the miracle of life, you get up and face it head on. The main theme of the original game playing remixed is wicked. Small change I adore is that in FES, once you enter the battle here, you can check your skills and kinda get spoiled on what's to come. But in Reload, you're locked out of everything until the time is right, and when you go to use it, there's even a unique sprite here. Following scene shows your friends in a protected space where they're informed of everything that's happened and everything that follows, and they didn't animate Aiga's crying? What? That's such a big, incredible moment that the game had been building up to from, like, the start, and they completely ignore it? They sneak in this new scene of your friends rushing towards you and crying, and this is where Aigis cries. In a portrait sprite. Maybe I just care a little more than I should, but this is awful. Final day comes and quiet music follows you as you run around confronting everyone you've come to love in your journey. And they're noticing how sickly you look, but they don't know why you're like that. Everybody forgot, but not Aigis. She comes to make sure that you haven't forgotten. The entire thing is animated this time around. They spend a good amount of focus on the scenery as she's talking. Wind turbines spinning while the cherry blossoms blow away. It makes everything feel so warm and soft. Flashbacks go across the screen as she's— That's the thing! I was just complaining about that! Why are they here instead of where they're supposed to be? They feel so out of place, but I have to admit, credits where credits due, it does help sell the moment more. The original had it so that in the final moment, Igus was actually human to symbolize her growth. That's gone in Reload? They could have easily added it in after the screen fades to black and the butterfly goes across. I'm not sure why they didn't, but other than that, everything here is nearly perfect. Your friends show up to drift you off to sleep, and a wonderful remix of Memories of You plays as the credits roll. This game means so much to me. I've been obsessed with it for almost 8 years now, begging for a remake ever since I first played Persona 5, and shortly after I was thinking, you know, this would be the coolest thing ever. And to be honest, what I got isn't perfect, but I'm satisfied with it. The lack of additions to specific scenes and no FMC are truly tragic, but with everything else they include and just how good the game feels to play, I'm content with this. I certainly wouldn't call this the definitive way to experience Persona 3, but definitely the best way to play it, if that makes sense. But does that really justify a remake? Nobody wants to talk about it, but the original Persona 3 was designed the way it was on purpose. And if you didn't like it, then you just didn't like Persona 3, which is fine. People don't value games enough as art to interact with them as they're intended, and this is part of the reason why remakes exist at all. The game could be a 10 out of 10 within its niche, but a 3 out of 10 to a different demographic. Changing something to be as broad as possible, to be as marketable as possible, kinda makes it lose itself in the process. So instead of appreciating what it is for what it is, they dictate what's good and what's not, then complain about it until the things they don't like are removed, instead of trying to understand why they were there to begin with. Which could lead you to having a new love and understanding for them, but it usually just leaves you with a very okay 7 out of 10. If you had all 4 versions in front of you right now, I'd probably tell you to play FES first, then Reload. Experience the game as it was originally crafted so that you can appreciate the things that Reload offers. But if you had none of them in front of you, and you just woke up one day really wanting to experience Persona 3, I would absolutely tell you to go for Reload. There's just so much packed inside that justifies it as a first experience, captivating narrative, and a thrill to play. It does a much better job at keeping the player entertained, especially during the earlier parts of the game. Go for Portable after if you feel like it, and watch the movies at your own pace. They're all really good.